A lot of people know me as someone who's a worship leader, and some of you will know me as someone who talks about worship or perhaps writes about worship and so on. For me, so often we're getting the cart before the horse. We're talking about the vehicle rather than the actual sustenance of what causes us to worship. And it's this new covenant of grace that Jesus came to usher in that is so important for us to understand. You see, our concept of God forms what we do. What we think God is, how we think his nature is towards us, really ultimately will reflect. If we see God as somebody who's a little bit distant, a little bit down on us, who approves others but perhaps sees us as sort of the weak link, as so many of us carry that around with us, that's going to carry on in the way we do our worship. We need to uncover what God's character and what nature is really about. And fundamentally, I think it's about love. God is love, says the New Testament writer. It's not just an attribute, it's not just a part of his personality, it is the core of his character. And out of that, of course, comes all different things. Jesus came to usher the new covenant. And, that new covenant means that we are accepted not on the basis of what we do, but on the basis of what he's done for us. That my standing before God as in a good day, in a bad day, isn't because of how I'm performing, but because of his acceptance. And that sustains me. That's the reason that I write the songs, and perhaps to take people into that deeper experience of knowing God. Of course, from that comes a whole plethora of activity as we go through this cycle of realizing that it's about acceptance and sustenance, and then achievement, doing things, and then fruitfulness of being fruitful and touching others' lives. But it starts from knowing that we're accepted by God, that Jesus has done it all. It's a finished work, and that's the good news. Sometimes, you see, we confuse it in our worship. We get a kind of Old Testament idea that somehow we've got to go up this mountain and go through all these things to get to God, and then one day we might actually get to find his presence. But I actually see it a different way, and of course I see it like, we're already like fish. We're swimming around in a fish tank. It's like the fish saying, "Where's the water?" The water's already there. God's presence is already here. But it's for us to understand and to open up to it. And worship often opens up our channel, our understanding of God's presence in our midst. And there are, of course, divine moments where he comes in wonderful ways. But let's start on the premise that he's already with us, because it's a new covenant we're born into, grace. The law, which, of course, the people of Jesus' era were very familiar with, meant we've got to do something to obtain acceptance before God. Grace means that God's already done it for us. Yeah. And with a clean conscience, we come before him, and then he calls us to be his ambassadors out to the world.
Tune in to the Profile Interview in association with Christianity Magazine every Saturday at 4 p.m, only on Premier Christian Radio, where faith comes to life.